Hey everyone, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. It's that time of the week again, the time when we talk about a giant green woman that can kick your teeth in.
It's true. She is big and green.
And she can kick your teeth in. Today is episode, I'm going to pull it, Dylan, episode 8? Because I think there's only 9 total? Okay.
Yeah.
Episode 8 of She-Hulk, and we finally have the episode
He's here.
that involves Daredevil, which I want to point out there. We're going to talk about this episode, and I want to go through this. Yesterday, I hit up Dylan, and I hit him up, and I said, hey, we got to cover She-Hulk this week on time. And he said, well, we could postpone it till Monday when we get back. And I said, we need the Daredevil bump. And his reaction was, I haven't seen it yet, which basically means, because I didn't say Daredevil's in it, we've been saying the Daredevil bump every week because everyone's looking for Daredevil. But what that means is, we are at a point where if you just say Daredevil, people assume it's this episode.
That's true. I mean, most people aren't watching this show that want Daredevil in it, so.
Right.
Did you actually, had you seen the episode when you said that? Or were you genuinely just saying, when you said that we need the Daredevil bump, had you seen the episode yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd seen
so
the
your
episode.
point isn't valid then. You knew Daredevil was in it.
Well, I knew that, but every week we've said the Daredevil bump because every week Twitter blows up with, where's Daredevil?
I don't know. I feel like that was a case of like, oops, I spoiled it, but let me like pretend like I don't know.
No, I didn't spoil it at all because every week this show is, and that's part of my argument here. This show has not been a She-Hulk show in half of the fans' eyes. Now, I've looked into this. There is a huge section of people who love this show for various reasons. This is not a disliked show that Marvel is just begrudgingly making us watch, but there is like a section of the fan base that has been like, Daredevil, this show's gonna suck without Daredevil. Where's Daredevil?
I'll be fair to the people that don't like this show. It's not just people who want Daredevil in it. There's definitely people who don't like the show because it's not, sometimes it's not a good show.
I'm in the middle ground with it. I like it.
Yeah,
there's
me too.
very obvious show problems that could be handled. So. But anyway, let's get to the point because Daredevil is finally in there. And the first problem is there is a smaller subsection of the Daredevil fans who are now arguing that he was jokey. To which my response is, guys, there's more to Daredevil than that Netflix series. I covered an entire series where he was like super serious and still cracking jokes. Quipping superheroes is not an MCU exclusive thing.
Yeah. I mean, people definitely are like, I think that was the main criticism from when Daredevil was first revealed to like be in She-Hulk is, oh no, he's in a comedy show. They're going to turn him into another MCU character, which is just quippy, blah, blah, blah. Which I think there's some amount of truth to that. But it's not like they took, well, I was going to say it's not like they took the Punisher and made him a jokey character, but also there's a comic book series where the Punisher is like a Frankenstein freak monster and it's a comedy. So like no character is immune to
every
being
character's
a
had
joke.
a comedy thing. I actually like how they handled Matt in this episode though. His joke. I want to just go into the Daredevil thing, then we're going to talk about everything else
get out of the way.
episode. Yeah. I actually like how they handled him because yes, he cracked jokes, but he didn't come across as like your standard MCU quips to me. It just seemed like Matt's just having fun. He's not in Hell's Kitchen. Nobody's breaking his nose. He's not fighting a guy trying to kill his girlfriend. He's literally
just want to die.
He's just on a vacation and he's fighting a guy named the Leapfrog. I think he's just having fun with it. Like that's the whole. Like Daredevil does have fun with being a superhero, and that's how I took it when I was watching this episode. This is no Bullseye. This is no Hell's Kitchen's gonna blow up. He's fighting a rich kid who has jet boots. Like,
yeah, I think there's definitely like,
it's like
you
when
contrast.
He fights Stiltman. Like he doesn't fight Stiltman seriously.
Yeah, you contrast like the last few scenes of Daredevil season 3 where he's beating the shit out of Kingpin with like him doing a walk of shame in this episode after boning She-Hulk, and that like it's obviously very different. But also, he's either grown for like 2 years or like 10 years if he's been blipped or not. And we still don't know, like, there's a quote going around from someone, I think it might be Kevin Feige, who's saying like this is very much their Daredevil that fans have grown to love. But we don't know if that means that everything's canon or if that means that they're just using some of that as a basis for where this Daredevil came from. So like, I feel like it is silly to get up in arms about a different characterization of Daredevil where, I don't know, the first 3 seasons of Daredevil are great and they're some of my favorite TV ever, and I don't mind him in this show. There's like a few lines of dialogue that I think were a little bad. I like physically cringed when he said in the courtroom, he was like, I know he's lying. Don't ask me how I know. I just do. I was like, okay, well, what are you trying to tell everyone you're Daredevil?
We've also already established that the writers didn't know how to make a courtroom scene, and they thought that was funny enough to tell us that they didn't know how to take a lawyer sequence and make a courtroom scene.
We don't know how to write our show.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone's going to find that as hilarious as us.
Yeah, no. I think it'd be funny if they didn't have one of the head writers of Better Call Saul writing a different show that is not this one. Although Daredevil's in that, so maybe. I don't know.
Right. I did enjoy the fact, I also love that they didn't really pull back on the superhero moment, because you finally get Daredevil. You don't want, as much as I loved having Matt Murdock joking with Jen and, sleeping with Jen and all that stuff, you didn't want Daredevil to just not be there. So I liked the fact that we got him in the suit, and it was a significant portion of the actual episode, which I did enjoy. I also like the fact that he was clearly more skilled than Jen. Like, even in their actual going toe-to-toe. And she's just doing Hulkism, stomping on things, trying to clap him, stuff like that. And he's getting blown around, but whenever he gets to move, he's clearly more skilled than Jen. And I also liked that they treated that when they decided to do the team up, where he's just like, look, I've been doing this like 2 years. What are you going to, you don't do this. Like, not 2 years, but many years. Whatever he stated as the years, like he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, the timeline
he knows how to
is weird.
sneak in. Yeah,
because if the idea, I've heard the idea that all the Netflix shows take place during the blip, which with a few dialogue changes that could make sense. But at face
they were
value,
supposed to originally take place during like one summer, like when
that's what I'm saying. Is like originally they all take place like in 2012, right after the Battle of New York, and like maybe edging into 13, 14. So if he was blipped, he's been doing this for like 4 years. If he wasn't blipped, he's been doing this for like a decade. So.
It gets
he's
wonky.
obviously
I could have
better.
sworn he said 2 years, but even that would still be more. They still, and I'm probably wrong about that, but I do like that they just went with that, and it wasn't like Jen's like, no, we're gonna do it my way. She went with the knowledgeable superhero. I also liked when he's looking at her and she's like, so who are you? I'm Daredevil. Like you should know who Daredevil is.
Dude, the little Daredevil theme coming in when he said that got me so. That was the one time in the episode I was like, how dare you? That you got me with that one. That made me so happy.
I also loved the kind of there was a couple comments that he said that reminded me, going all the way back to when Hideo Kojima announced Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. And they had the fate, and no, because what they did was it had been so long.
Yeah.
Snake shows up, and the comment is talking to the audience at the same time, and he makes the comment of "kept you waiting, huh?"
Right.
And when Daredevil came in, and he made the comment of "sorry to keep you waiting" or something along those lines, I'm like, True. His first line is a meta play on the viewers.
Yeah, they definitely they played the music up. There was like a big sting, and they zoomed in real close. It was like, who's this guy? Oh, it's Daredevil, right?
I thought Leapfrog was hilarious. I thought his character was just great.
He reminded me of the what's it, like Batman Forever, like his whole lair and everything, and all the fun lighting. Reminded me of that era of superhero stuff, which I enjoyed. I really liked the cinematography in this show is kind of bad most of the time, but at least like this episode, the lighting guy went off.
You could tell the budget was so here cool to make sure that the yellow and the red and everything popped, and that She-Hulk suit popped, and everything looked good.
She-Hulk looked great.
Another thing, and I've said this before, the Leapfrog reveal and then Daredevil showing up, I felt played into what I feel is the strengths about She-Hulk. Is that it does show that other side of the MCU. Not everything is like, oh my God, the world's going to end. No, there's going to be people like Leapfrog who are like, I got money, I'm be a superhero. Now I'm a villain. Like there's that stuff exists in the Marvel comics. And it's something that we don't really see that often in the MCU. How the world reacts to superheroes.
Right.
And the reaction is this rich guy thinks he's going to do it, that he's going to become a superhero. The reaction is Tatiana's not Titania's character is a social
Titania?
media star. Titania is a social media star. Like, this stuff would happen, and it does happen in the comics, but the MCU has always glossed over the world's reaction. And what I like about this is it's taking place after the initial 10 years, the Infinity Saga. Because like now the world is fully aware. We're not like, oh, what about that random guy in a suit of armor, or what about the guy with the shield? No, it's like, no, superheroes are a thing. There's a shrinking guy. There's a guy with a robotic arm. There's like, this stuff is happening and people are reacting to it. So I do like that, regardless of the writing in the show and stuff like that. I think this is doing the best one to show how the rest of the world is reacting to superheroes. And it almost gives me the vibes, and this is going to be people saying that it's like terrible, but it gives me vibes all the way back to that DC show that wasn't about superheroes, but it was about a company that dealt with it. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one with Vanessa Hudgens and Alan Tudyk. That show was awful.
I loved that show, which tells you why I love She-Hulk. But like, I'm just saying, like, because that made DC feel bigger, and that's what I like about She-Hulk. It is making everything feel bigger, and it really hit the head on the nail on the head this episode, in my opinion, with Leapfrog, with Daredevil coming straight out of the villain, where they all sat around and talked to the Abomination. This just worked for me, and I really enjoyed seeing Daredevil and Matt Murdock here. Just having fun, not trying to beat everyone up. But I know I just went on my own little tangent there with explaining what I liked about this. But I mean, what did you enjoy about this particular episode? Because other than some cringe dialogue, I thought even the dialogue stepped up for this particular episode.
Sure. I mean, despite like me liking most of this so far, I didn't actually really like this episode. I'll get into that.
That's awesome. There's such differing opinions all the time.
Wow. I thought it was fine, but I'll just to add on to what you were saying. I do like that this show, it doesn't have to do with anything end of the world type, like, because like that's something that has bothered me about a lot of the MCU movies, is that they always feel the need to make everything about the end of the world. Comics do this all the time too, where like event comics they're like so big, and the fate of the universe and blah blah blah.
Right, that's I'm sick and tired of that, honestly. I'm getting tired of everything is the fate of the universe. The story I just told you about what's happening in current Spider-Man is a perfect example of just stuff happening in Spider-Man. It's not like the world's ending.
Right, the first arc of the new run. I think it like going back in the comics, at least, to like Avengers Last Stand, which was like that came out, it wasn't really an event comic, but it was like a crossover thing, and it came out in like a time where like event comics were really exhausting. And that just felt like kind of refreshing, because it was just about like this little thing that S.H.I.E.L.D. did that was kind of messed up, and we're going to deal with that now. And I like that this show is sort of taking like, you know, there's superhero shenanigans, but it's not like, oh no, the Hulk has to stop a planet from crashing into another planet. It just gets tiring.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that I am enjoying. And it might be because we consume so much MCU stuff. And I enjoy, like I've said before, really low-tier sitcoms. I really do enjoy sitcoms. And just when they're just being sitcom-y, and I feel like that's the show hitting all the time. Sitcom-y moments. Even when you put in Daredevil and he's backflipping and getting blown into stuff and cracking jokes about his hearing and how she called it echolocation. And, you know, like, that, I liked that. I liked
echolocation? Is that a reference to Echo?
While I loved his encounter there, and I loved that she's now working with the designer again, who I felt got a lot of character in this episode, and I actually really liked the costume designer guy. He was great. Do you think Daredevil's going to be back, or that was it? He's here. He did this one setup, and because we're going into the last episode now.
Yeah, and this is where I don't like this episode is, and I kind of felt this from the beginning, is like this is 3 episodes of this show that they crammed into one for whatever reason.
No, I'd say 2.
I think it's 3, and they make a joke about that, because the episode ends and Jen's like, wait, why is the episode still going? And then they do the whole gala thing.
Right, well, that's why I felt it was 2, because I felt the gala thing would have been the next episode, but they wanted to tack it onto the Daredevil, which I agree. Right. What I feel is the worst part about this. Like, I don't like that. What you get the whole thing of her already being disappointed because Woman of the Year is not Woman of the Year, it's Women of the Year, and she's been nominated with dozens of other women. We go back to the whole her not feeling very empowered in her job title because she's a woman, because they literally state, hey, you're one of dozens now. We're going to celebrate you all. And I get that, and it made her mad. And then we had the villain show up and reveal her sex life on the screen. And basically, finally, she rages out, which is my problem with the show. The show, not this episode, the show. That plot has only really come up in like the first episode, the second episode, as quick mentions. They've hinted at it, but it's only been in passing kind of a thing.
Sure.
And then the Abomination episode, they kind of more establish it, and then it's here. Oh, now she's raging. Like, we didn't even get a hint that this might happen. She just loses it finally.
I think I have an issue with that too, of her I don't know if she's actually like losing control or not. I think she might just be angry, because we've seen her get angry before but not actually lose control. It's just like if a regular person were to scream, she just happens to scream like the Hulk if he were to lose control.
Right.
So they cut in a very interesting way. So
I do think that too, because I was trying to figure out, was she going savage or was she just mad?
Right.
Because they didn't make it clear. Because she kept being like, oh, she's going savage. Oh, she seems to be cognitive of what's happening. Oh, she's going savage. Oh, she seems to be cognitive of what's happening. And it's like, I don't really know what you're trying to go for here. Like, is she just mad or is she losing it?
I think it depends. It's going to depend on how it resolves. Because I think if they are just making her lose control completely, that kind of defeats the point of this whole like show. Going back to the first episode,
right? That she's not Hulk. She's not Bruce.
Yeah,
that was the
different.
whole point.
That would be kind of lame, of just like, oh well, now she actually is just the Hulk. Well, who'd have thought? Which it's not a thing without precedent, but whatever.
Yeah, I was like, any comic book fan would have thought that because it happens. But.
Yeah, but like, you want to make it different, and it's just kind of a lame outcome. But yeah, I think going back to my main. Okay, this cat is losing his mind. Going back to the main problem I had is the pacing and everything feeling rushed. I don't know. That's how I felt. This episode, more than the rest of them, felt like they had a lot more to say and they just needed to push it into this episode. 'Cause I feel like they could have done a whole episode on the court stuff. They could have done a whole episode on Matt being in his suit, Daredevil stuff, and then another episode of the Gala stuff.
Oh, easily. I do think the Daredevil stuff was intended to be one episode, but you could have easily stretched that out. 100%.
Yeah.
We could have had more of them just being Jen and Matt talking and getting to more of that. Because it did feel kind of like, hey, Matt, I'm Jen. Hey, Jen, I'm Matt. Want a bone? That's kind of how it felt like.
Right.
Like two lawyers are
especially that, because it felt like it was funny because she breaks the fourth wall at one point when they're in the bar. She turns to the camera and goes, am I the only one that's feeling this? Like referring to their chemistry. And at that point in the episode, I'm like, yeah. You are the only one feeling this. And then later, like as they talk more,
you an Appletini. That's it.
Right, like he's just being a dude. But it felt forced. But like later in the episode when they work together and he's like spouting law stuff while beating a guy up, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I get why they like each other.
And I love the little line of, I just like law procedurals. Like I just like those.
Yeah, I'm just a fan. Yeah, Daredevil doesn't care about his identity anymore, except he does. So.
Apparently. But yeah, I thought this episode was fun. I liked his portrayal in there. I could see the complaints that it's not the Daredevil from Netflix, because if you just want that brooding, angry guy, that you're not getting that.
Yeah.
But we all kind of knew the MCU was going to lighten him up.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally has a yellow suit. That was what he was being promoted with.
Right. It's tough because it's, to play devil's advocate, to play Daredevil's advocate, it like at the end of season 3 was such a massive cliffhanger to the point where like the show's cancellation, the team making the show didn't even know it was getting canceled. Like I understand this specific instance, like being disappointed that the Daredevil you're getting after all these years is not the one from the show that got unceremoniously canceled. I don't mind it. I definitely want to see more, and I'm interested because the next 2 appearances that we know of for him, as far as I can know, as I remember, I'm sure he's in like everything at this point, but like Echo and his own show seem like they're going to have a more darker tone.
That's what I was going to say. Him showing up in this show to make it comedic, I'm fine with, as long as we get, I don't think we need to go all the way back to dark Netflix series, but go closer back to that. Make it more serious. That's what I want to see basically coming out of like the Echo and the Daredevil show. Once it's themed around him, then it's going to be easier. It'd be like Punisher showing up here. He's not going to be cussing and shooting up people. He probably wouldn't even take one bullet. Like he would just make a joke, team up with them, and then go back. So, but once they go to their show, and I think that's what people seem to forget when it comes to stuff like cameos, whenever they do crossovers in any show, the people coming over are going to adapt to the show they're moving over to. That happens in sitcoms and comedies and stuff all the time. The tone is going to shift to the tone of the show they're going to. You're not going to have a She-Hulk episode that suddenly gets dark and gritty because it's trying to match Daredevil. You're going to have Daredevil trying to match She-Hulk. Now, if She-Hulk shows up in Daredevil, then I would expect her to be more dark, gritty, serious, to the point. She would match that tone. So that's what I'm expecting. The tone of Echo and Daredevil is going to be more what people are looking for. Well, his cameo here is just a fun cameo. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I think it definitely, it's going to depend on who's handling it and everything. I remember back when The Flash showed up on Supergirl. I remember back then, I don't remember what season The Flash was in at this point, but like Barry's characterization, sort of throughout that entire show, is kind of annoying and dry. And he's pissed like constantly and really sad, but then he shows up in Supergirl and he's the Flash, like he's all like happy and like kind of happy to be there and happy to help and like fun. And I watched this so long ago I can't remember specifics, but I just remember liking Supergirl's characterization of the Flash more than I did the Flash's characterization of the Flash. So it depends. I'm very interested to see what they do with Daredevil going forward. I didn't mind him here.
Playing devil's advocate, the only reason I could see people being super mad is that we haven't gotten proper Daredevil yet. So everyone is worried that they're going to ruin Daredevil, and if this is the only portrayal of Daredevil, it technically is ruining him from his Netflix portrayal. It is. I wouldn't go as far as to say ruining, but I can see the argument for we're not getting that Daredevil.
I think it's but also like.
But again, I just feel like it would have been easier if they just put out Daredevil first. Like if Daredevil had just come out, then this all would have been out the window.
To ease people into it. Yeah, I get it. But I think it's also like because like I'm thinking of Kingpin also because I just rewatched Hawkeye, and Kingpin showing up in that, he definitely feels very different from the Kingpin in the Netflix show. But he's still more like he's not cracking jokes or anything. He just feels more like he has familial ties to Echo, and he feels more like an established like dude who hides in the background. Whereas like in the Netflix show, Kingpin is very kind of public facing and he's trying to trick everyone. Right. So it's different, but like we're not going to see like there's degrees that the MCU has to work with here because at least in the She-Hulk show or in the Hawkeye show, we're not going to see Kingpin bash a dude's head in with a car door. Like that's just not going to happen. You have to set your expectations.
It's not. They're not going to show that kind of a thing. I want to end this video on one meme that was making the rounds on the Daredevil thing, which I found hilarious. And it is just a joke. This was not a serious argument. Breaking, Marvel fans are furious over depictions of Charlie Cox's Daredevil in the latest episode of She-Hulk. And then they quote it, "It's a betrayal to us, the fans, to see our favorite character, someone that we all relate to, have sex. It's unrealistic."
How dare he?
But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Absolutely Marvel and DC Reviews She-Hulk. I'm Benny, that is Dylan, and if you want to support this channel, please consider going to our YouTube memberships or hitting like, subscribe, and letting us know your thoughts on the episode down below. We'll see you next time.